Hey everybody, and welcome to Slasher Quest, where I take you on a journey through the 1980s slasher movie catalog, one movie at a time. Last week we talked about a classic in Sleepaway Camp. This week we'll be talking about another interesting installment. And I'm going to be talking about the movie Scream. No, not the 1996 movie Scream made by Wes Craven. And no, not the 2022 sequel to that movie. We're going to be talking about 1981 Scream, a movie so boring that it's interesting. So, the other Scream from 1981. It is directed by Byron Quisenberry, and the plot for this one is a group of friends on a rafting trip downriver stop in an old ghost town to spend the night. Soon, their rafts disappear, and they begin to be eliminated one by one by a mysterious killer. I will say that the plot is more interesting than the movie is as a whole. Uh, the director of this was a former stuntman. He had like a huge career and did a lot of well-known movies, which it kind of makes me laugh that he was a stuntman because this movie is pretty dull and doesn't have like an incredible amount of stunts in it. I'll get into that later when I start talking about kills and how they even botched that. This one has a pretty low rating in IMDb. I think it's like in the threes or fours, something like that. And I can really see why. I believe this is my third time watching this, and first time finishing it. So if that goes to tell you anything, this movie is rather slow, it's dull, it drags out. It has a couple things going for it. I mean, let's kind of just discuss it here. So I guess the original title for this movie was going to be The Butcher, the Baker, and the Candlestick Maker. Not to be confused with another slasher movie called Night Warning, which was also called Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker. Both of those titles, like the Butcher Baker thing, like, why did they think that was a good idea for two movies, let alone one? And for this movie, it makes no sense. They ended up changing it to another title called The Outing, and then having to change it again. And there's actually another like kind of slasher movie that involves a genie and an ancient lamp called The Outing. That's a really interesting movie, and I mean the poster is incredible. Definitely one of those like you'd see on a shelf or like, oh, I have to rent that because it's so well done. So they ended up like falling on the title of Scream, which, you know, it's a pretty good name for a slasher. I mean, obviously they ended up using it for the 1996 movie, which makes this movie even harder to seek out and like find streaming anywhere or even find information on, because anytime you look up like Scream movie, like you're gonna get the 1996 or you're gonna get like the 2022 film. I had to like type in Scream 1981, and even when I entered that into IMDb, I couldn't find the page. I had to like go to Google and search for that to have it bring up the IMDb page. The way this movie like kicks off is probably the most effective part of it. We get just like a shot inside like this somebody's house, of a wall, and there's like this really, really creepy music playing. That is probably the most effective part of the movie. It comes along at the end as well. Same music, same wall, and it focuses in on a picture of a sailor. All this was shot like inside the director's house. So the fact that he had like these weird pictures on the wall is kind of funny. You get some great wood panel in the background. If this movie wasn't dated enough, there you go. Some of the scenery is really cool when they start like their rafting trip and they're going down the river. You see like canyons and just really cool like nature shots in the background. Shots of them on a raft. It's kind of cool. And it's like the weirdest collection of friends ever. Because like you get some younger people, you get some older people, and then you get like this dude that's probably like in his 70s Like, why is he hanging out with these kids like in their 20s and 30s? I'm like, I'm not entirely sure what this group is. Somebody bring their grandpa or something? When they finally get to the ghost town, it's obvious that it was something just like made up. It wasn't like a real ghost town that they found. They look all like things that were casted off from a Western movie, which is funny because one of the main characters in this is played by John Wayne's son. I'm not sure how he got roped into this or even if John Wayne ever saw this movie, but I'm sure he would be kind of disappointed in what his son is taking for a job. Uh, there's other things too that kind of stand out in this. There's a lot of like, let's sit and wait and see what happens. Our rafts are gone, so we gotta just like hang out here and wait. Um, it's as interesting as it sounds. A lot of the shots are really dark, so you can't really see what's going on too much. And like the kill scenes, my lord, what is most people see slashers for? Like the complex kills and gore. This movie has like none of those. All the kills are off screen, so you'll just see like a shadow, or you'll see like a cleaver come up and then it comes down and someone screams, and you don't like see it hit anybody. There's barely any blood. You get like one shot of an axe decapitating someone. So I mean, let's just jump right into the kills. As dull as they are. The first one, we get a guy named Alan. He gets hung by a noose. You just see like the rope drop down, and then you don't even see him go in it. You just like see him like slump down really fast, like the rope tightens, and then that's it. We get two guys that get off by a meat cleaver. One of them is named Ross. He gets hacked up, and then there's a guy named John who gets hacked up. And that's kind of when we see like the little bit of the blood, because we see some on the cleaver. The next one is we get a guy named Rod, who is a dirt bike guy. There's two of them that show up. I wouldn't call it. They're not cyclists. They're not bikers because they're on dirt bikes. So I'll say dirt bike racers, because they have like the whole jerseys, hat, everything, or helmet. I mean, everything on, just tearing around in the desert with their dirt bikes. This guy named Rod gets thrown through a door, and like I guess that kills him, because he just like breaks through the door and lands in a heap. And he like, was he already dead and got thrown through, or did he die on the impact? Like, how hard did you have to throw someone through a door to kill him? We get another person who's like, just his name is Jerry, and his body is just discovered. Like, we don't see how he dies, so they even went cheaper with that. We get a guy named Andy who gets beaten. He gets thrown off a ledge, and then the killer hacks his head off with an axe. And it's really only like a split second we see of like this axe coming down, and you see like his head separate from the body. Not as cool as it sounds like you think it would be. And they're definitely not showing you as much as like a Savini movie would show you. The last kill we get is we get a guy named Bob who gets beheaded with a scythe. Another one that sounds cool, but of course they don't show you anything because that's how this movie is. The killer ends up being like the sea captain ghost, and like I just kept laughing once I figured it out, because it's never like straightforward that it's a sea captain ghost until the end when they show you the picture of it, and it's kind of just implied. I kept laughing because I kept thinking of the old sea captain from The Simpsons, just going "yar" when killing people. The way he meets his end is probably the dumbest thing ever. Let's see, he's a ghost. He's a slasher killer. How does he die? He gets shot. He gets shot. A ghost gets shot and dies in this movie. That just goes to show you how ridiculous this thing is. What I said was interesting about it is the most interesting thing is that how dull the movie is. It is directed by a stuntman. It's a slasher movie from the early 80s, and they don't really spend much time building any characters. Uh, they try to rely more on suspense, and the suspense is kind of lacking even most of the time, because there's a lot of like sit and wait and let's figure things out. The scenery is cool. Just like the whole atmosphere that it's in is pretty decent. You get like some interesting camera work for a first time and I believe last time director. I believe this is the only movie that he ever directed. So, the fact that some of the camera shots and stuff are interesting, like says something. But at the end, I mean, it's just a dull and like just a slog to get through, and it's really only like an hour and a half long tops. And there's so many movies that I've seen from this genre that I would rather watch than this. I can get to my grading thing because you guys know I like to add numbers to my grading here. And the grading for this, I've got the special effects, I gave a 2 because you don't really see anything. The axe one was handled kind of well, but they didn't dwell on it long enough to be really cool. The acting gets a 3 because most of it's pretty bad. Plot gets a 3 just because it's so stereotypical and it's nothing new. The ending gets a 1 because how are you going to kill a ghost with a gun? The killer gets a 1 because you never see him, and it's just kind of implied that he's like some ghost of a sailor. The kills get a 2 because it cut away from everything and you don't really see anything. And I gave the replay value a 1 because I'm probably never going to watch it again. So all this evens the score out to a 1.9, which I believe is in the bottom 5 of all the slasher movies that I've ever watched. I'll say another positive thing about this movie, and it's just my personal taste. There's this doofy character that walks around wearing a Houston Oilers hat the whole time, and that was just kind of nostalgia seeing the Houston Oilers. I've always loved the baby blue and red colors, and it made me think of the glory days of like Warren Moon playing the quarterback and of the team and everything. It just kind of brought a smile to my face. But I mean, when that's like your main positive, you know what you're getting in for. A couple last facts I got here kind of to wrap it up. So most of the kills, as you can imagine, were handled like off camera because the director wanted to rely more on the atmosphere, and he also wanted to save money as well. What's the best way to save money in a slasher movie? And that is to have all your kills happen off screen and not show any special effects. And also, this movie was shot in 12 days, which doesn't really surprise me because of the value of it. I mean, in conclusion, I'm happy I watched it because I could add it to my list of slashers that I have seen. I can also say that I've watched it and I don't have to watch it again if I don't want to. I mean, at the end of the day, it's one of the more boring ones I've ever watched, and it doesn't really bring anything new to the table. So, I had to give it that low rating that I gave it. So, if you're liking the show so far, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share the show to get some more eyes on it. And as always, be kind and rewind.